Good morning. Oh my God, there's hundreds of you. And we're back again. Thank you very much for coming. Birmingham's better than London, isn't it? Yes. Who wants to be in London anyway? Now we're taking pictures. So we're educating grown-ups. So I thought I should start the slide with all the wanky titles that a consultant can accumulate in 5 years of practice. And I thought I'd start with a question to you all, because that's what education's about, isn't it? It's about questions. Who believes that because of my wanky titles and my qualifications that I am smarter than them if they're a trainee? Anybody believe that I'm smarter than you? Or do you believe? Yes? We're starting from a bad position then. Because I'm not smarter than anybody else in the room. I'm probably more stupid than most of the people in the room, because I said to Scott that I'd stand up here and talk to you, and I also agreed to go first, which is the hardest thing of any day. But all being a consultant does is means that you accumulate a load of letters after your name and a load of jobs that you probably don't want to do. A divisional audit lead is certainly something you don't want to do. Trust me on this one. There was a TV show a few years back. The Dick and Dom version was much better than the Noel Edmonds version, and I've cut him out of this slide. And the question was, are you smarter than a 10-year-old? And this wasn't a fair test. Much in the same way that it's not a fair test to ask, are you less smart than a consultant? Because consultants aren't smarter than you if you're a trainee. They're just more experienced, and they are more specialised in what they know. And all they asked in this quiz was about the national curriculum for 10-year-olds. Much in the same way that all I get asked about emergency medicine is stuff that a consultant does on a daily basis. And I'm kind of good at what I do. You know, I do critical care in the emergency department, and I do sick children. I'm bloody awful with minor injuries these days, and I'm quite happy to devolve minor injury care to my friends and colleagues who are emergency and advanced nurse practitioners and extended scope physiotherapists. So why is it important that you don't think that you're smarter than me, and so you think that you can educate me? It's because of something called a flattened hierarchy. And that's what I'd like to do with all the hierarchies in the NHS. There's too much bullshit around. Sorry, I'm swearing far too much already. There's too much rubbish around in the NHS. I don't know how much time you spend with paediatricians, but as soon as paediatricians, and Ross is at the back there, I don't have to say the paediatric surgeons, but it's certainly the same with paediatricians, as soon as you become a consultant paediatrician, you immediately lose your normal first name, and your first name becomes Doctor. I'm now Dr. Grayson to a lot of the trainees. I hate that. I'm only Dr. Grayson when the bank are calling, the GMC is calling, or the coroner is calling. My first name is Alan, it's always been Alan, and just because I've got CCT doesn't make me any more special than I was the day before I got my CCT. So we need to break down the hierarchy. Why is that important? Because it's better for patient safety, and it's better for patient care. I'm sure pretty much everybody in this room have heard about the case of Elaine Bromley, and if you haven't, her husband Martin tells it better than me. But Elaine was a lady who died because there were incidents in her perioperative care, and because the nurses who were trying to intervene felt that they couldn't break down the hierarchy of care. So if I'm about to induce anaesthesia with metaraminol and suxamethonium, do you think I'm going to listen to you if you're tugging at my scrubs going, Dr. Grayson, Dr. Grayson, Dr. Grayson? No, I'm not. But if you go, Alan, stop, I'm going to listen to you. And that's why a flattened hierarchy is important, because it allows everybody to compete on the same level. And this talk isn't about educating grown-ups. It's not about that. It's about something called managing up. And that's what I spent a lot of my time researching for this. I read a lot of interesting things in Harvard Business Review and a lot of things about organisational psychology. And that's what this is about. It's about managing up. And thankfully, the position that we're in is not what I thought this slide represented. Because I thought it was going to be, oh, we can't tell consultants what to do. But thankfully, you're all free of that bullshit and you think you can. So I'm going to break this talk down into 4 sections. It's about knowing the problem, which will start here. It's about knowing the organisation in which you're working. It's about knowing your boss, and it's about knowing yourself. So, if you come to me and try and talk about something, what I'd really much like you to do is to know the problem. One of the registrars in our place came up to me the other day and said, we've got this man, he's got excited delirium, we need to give him ketamine, because he'd heard it on a blog post. I don't know who'd written the blog post, I don't know who'd done the podcast, but that's what he heard, and he'd rather do that. And I said, well, hang on a minute, why do you want to give him ketamine? And what's the downside to giving him ketamine? And we couldn't answer that question together. So we said, shall we do what we normally do, which is give him a bit of lorazepam and give him a bit of haloperidol and see what happens. I'm quite open to the idea and quite open to innovation, but I'd kind of like to know all the bits and pieces around it. You're here, probably because you, like I, am a devotee of phone. I've been doing it for rather a long time now, but there has been an enormous growth in the number of blogs, podcasts, tweets, over the last 5 years since phone was founded by Mike Gillian in a pub in Dublin at ICANN 2012. And the problem is, as we've gone onwards, we've kind of forgotten the golden rule of phone, which is you need to think for yourself. You need to question the evidence. You need to not believe in eminence-based medicine. You need to believe in evidence-based medicine. And all of the people who are big names in FOMED, so Simon Carley, who I work with, Scott Weingart, Cliff Reeve, anybody who you want to have up there as a paragon of FOMED would ask you to do the same thing, would ask you to not treat what they say as gospel, but to read around the subject yourself. And that's the thing. If you come to me and say, I want to reduce a shoulder and I want to give the patient ketamine or ketofol, that's fine, because you've read a randomised controlled trial about it. But if you want to say, I want to give the patient ketofol, then don't just read the one randomised controlled trial about it, read the 8 randomised controlled trials about it and come to an opinion. And that's where we are in emergency medicine. We don't have the luxury, as our friends in anaesthesia, cardiology, general practice do, of having perfectly designed 25,000 participant randomised controlled trials. We have small, imperfect, kind of low-grade evidence trials, and what we need to do is we need to be clever. And you're all clever people, but you need to be able to synthesize that evidence together and come to a conclusion. And that's part of the battle of focus. We can do it. We can do it together. This isn't Jack Monroe, the slayer of the Hopkins beast. Yes! Together we can do it. You are all witty, clever, intelligent people. There is probably going to be something in the region of 2,500 tweets from this room, which is all generated learning that is going out across the country. I suspect we'll probably even do better than Archem CPD today in terms of tweets and impressions. But, you know, that's how we do it. But it's a collaborative effort. We work better when we do it together. The next thing you need to do is to understand your organisation. I'm a bit restricted by the slides that I can put up because this is being videoed. There's Jake over there videoing me at this moment in time, which doesn't really help the nerves. So there's only a finite amount of slides that you can put up which are free of copyright. This is an organisational chart of a company in the US from around back in the 1920s. But I guarantee that if you looked at the organisational charts for the NHS Trust for which you work, it wouldn't look any less complicated than that. So what's this all about? This is about knowing your place in the organisation, but it's also about knowing with whom you can interact, and knowing to whom you should go with the problems that you've got. And it might not be your consultant, it might be their boss, it might be the head of the division, it might be the medical director. And as a doctor, you have the right to do that. You can actually email the medical director's secretary and say, can we have a chat about something? I think this is important, I think you need to know about that. But if you're going to do that, you've only got a finite amount of capital and a finite number of times that you can do that before they go, you know what, Grayson's been bending my ear a lot, he's a bit of a wanker, so I'm not going to listen to him anymore. So don't burn your capital up about stuff that doesn't matter. And why is this important? Well, we work in a big organisation called the NHS, and it's very important that you know the pressures and the drivers and the struggles that are going on in the NHS at the moment. So if you come to me and say, Alan, I think we should introduce speed-type natriuretic peptide to increase diagnostic accuracy of heart failure in the emergency department. Well, I'm keen to hear that. I quite like diagnosing heart failure. It's one of my interests. It was what my dissertation and my master's was about. But at the moment, if you want to spend 150 quid per patient on, I don't know, the Manchester we probably see about 12, 15 patients a day, they're not going to wear that. We're not going to be able to support £2,000 a day on a diagnostic test. And part of the battle is reframing the problem. So you want to use BMP to improve diagnostic accuracy of heart failure? Brilliant. We can't afford it. It's £2,000. Is there a way of reframing the problem? So you want to diagnose it better? Is there another solution? You need to be canny. You need to think about things. And there is another solution. The solution is something that's available in your emergency department. It's about using ultrasound. It's about doing pulmonary ultrasound and doing cardiac ultrasound to improve diagnostic accuracy. And you need to be smart. You need to reframe the problem and you need to know what it is that you're trying to solve. Now, I'm fairly sure that there are consultants out there that probably still wear a waistcoat and frock coat to work. Thankfully, none of them work in emergency medicine. Although I think one day I'd probably quite like to turn up in breeches and a waistcoat. I think it would be quite nice to be in research dressed like this. I have intubated in a suit before. There are probably still old duffers out there who get their secretaries to print out their emails for them to reply to. And you need to understand people like that, because if you want to innovate as a consultant whose secretary still prints out their emails, you're probably not going to win. So you need to pick your battles, and you need to find people who are going to support you. And you also need to understand your consultant. This is nowhere near what my desk looks like. My desk is piled high with a load of crap and a load of moulding coffee cups and a load of incident reports that are about a week overdue. But if you're a trainee, one of the things that you need to understand is your consultant is busy. How busy? About 100 emails a day busy. About 60 meetings a month busy. That's kind of average for the NHS. So you need to pick the time where you want to come and speak to your consultant. And you need to pick the right way of doing it. You also need to understand, and this is going to be hugely apparent round about 2 o'clock this afternoon, when we've all run out of battery power and we all want to continue tweeting. You need to understand that there is a hierarchy of needs and that consultants are human too. And if they're being a grumpy, miserable so-and-so, then there's probably because something else is going on in their life at the time. I looked at my email this morning, and it's coming to the end of another 4-month rotation for the ST3s and for the FY2s in emergency medicine. And there's a load of emails there saying, can you fill in my multi-source feedback, can you fill in my supervised learning events, can you fill in my work-based placed assessments, depending on what grade they are. And yes, I can. And I will be doing that on the train back to Manchester this afternoon. If cross-country trains actually give me Wi-Fi access, which they didn't on the way down. However, that's important to them. But what they don't understand is that I've not been doing that because I do care. I've been having to write this talk for coming here. I've also been having to fill in all of the rest of the stuff that the hospital needs done by the end of the financial year. And I've also been having a new kitchen put in. So I've been a little bit disinterested in your problems at the moment. That's because I've got half of a new kitchen in my living room and I haven't got space to do anything. Scott Weingart talks about it better than I do. He got a very, very good podcast about decision fatigue. And the consultants amongst you and the senior registrars amongst you, you will understand this. The number of ECGs that get put in front of you, can you just have a look at this? Blood gases that get put in front of you, can you have a look at this? When you're on the shop floor, it's hard because your focus is on the patients that are in front of you. And what you need is probably not to be having a deep, in-depth discussion about a research proposal or a teaching opportunity. And you certainly don't want to be doing it just before the mid-morning snack, whatever that is. I don't even know what lunch is, and that's on there as well. So how are you going to do it? I spoke last year about what makes a good educational supervisor, in that if you're going to have your educational supervisor meetings, don't have them on the shop floor, don't even have them in the consultant's office. But if you want engagement from me, take me away from all that, take me away from the computer, take me away from the laptop, and take me to somewhere like this, and provide me with coffee to make my brain sparkle, and you will have my undivided attention for as long as that latte lasts for. Buy me a pastry, and you can probably get 45 minutes of my time. But that's what you want to do. You need to look at how you're engaging with people and exactly what it is that you want from them. The other thing I would suggest is that you should be actively seeking out a mentor. There will be somebody within the trust that you work that is aligned to your ideas. I put up the slide at the start with all my wanky titles, not for self-aggrandisement, because I think I'm a bit shit and a bit average really, but because I've got certain interests. So if you come to me with an idea for patient safety, or trainee education, or increasing flow through the emergency department, or anything like that, you're pushing at an open door. If you come to me with an idea for audit, I'm going to listen to you as well, because I'm paid to do. It's about synergising the ideas that you've got with one of the consultant body that will listen to you. In the place where I work, we've got 28 consultants now. So whatever idea that you've got, yes, 28, Lisa. We had to fill your place with 4 of us. We've got 28 consultants, so whatever idea you've got, whatever interest you've got, there is probably likely to be somebody that shares that. And we come, after all, to you. And why are you important? Well, you're important because you're here. But you are the only variable that you can control. You can't control me. You can't control the NHS. And you certainly can't control the medical evidence. You can contribute to it, but you can't control it. Are you doing all that you can do? Are you the best person that you can be? Are you learning as much as you need to know? And are you communicating that to people? I say to all the trainees, every single shift that you turn up to is a job interview. The decision on where you get your consultant job is not based on that 45 minutes of sweat down the back, shoehorned into a suit of terror that we all go through at least one point in our lives. The decision was made long before that, because I know who I want to appoint to the consultant team for the next 5 years. I've made those views clear. So your job interview starts now. But are you the best that you can be? Are you role modelling what a good emergency physician is to the trainees, to the nurses, to the consultants on a daily basis? This say to know yourself. This has been an idea that's been around for 3,000 years. What if myself is a twat? I guarantee you're not a twat. Because if you were a twat, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be invested in developing yourselves, in networking with other people, in delivering quality patient care. But reflection is very important. Why is it important? Well, the GMC says it is. But I think that emergency physicians are among the most reflective of all doctors. Why? Well, we go down the pub and we talk about the shit that we've been through on a daily basis to our mates. We have the best stories. Our wives, our husbands, our kids are probably bored of some of our war stories, but we have them. And all of that is reflection. All of that is us thinking about what we go through on a daily basis. But I would encourage you to write down those rants, those whinges, and to publish them as blog posts or to add them to your portfolio as something to do. Certainly, the St Emlyn's blog that I write for will be more than happy to do it, and I suspect that most of the FOMED networks around the country will be more than happy to hear your reflective thoughts, as long as there's some evidence around it and you're learning from it. I have to put this man up. There's not so many bald men from Huddersfield. I said there's loads of bald men from Huddersfield, but he's another one. One of the most important things that you can do is to engage. Play the game. Go to the meetings that are there. Ask people if you can accompany them. Your viewpoint is welcome, and people will want to listen to you. You have ideas, you have energy, you have spirit that people will want to go. We had to doctor this slide, but people matter. And essentially, emergency medicine is all about people. Ask yourself this: why do you, as an emergency physician, get better results from the radiologist than the surgeons? A, because you're not a twat, but B, because you care about that radiologist. You know what's going on in her life. You know that the kid has just been a little bit ill with a snotty nose because you saw that child, because she rang you up and said, Alan, I'm a bit worried about my kid, he's got a bit of a fever, it doesn't seem to be going down with paracetamol, can you take a look at them for me? But you invest in people. You make the time for people, and because of doing that, people will do you favours. How do you go about developing yourself? We've talked a lot about the feedback sandwich. And feedback seems to have come a long way from the shit sandwich that I had to deal with 15 years ago when I started out as a trainee. Because you never got positive feedback about what you did well. You always got, you fucked up in this way. But we've gone now to the other extreme, where we're afraid to receive negative feedback. We're afraid, certainly I'm very afraid to give negative feedback. But reading around all of this, I suspect that the most formative and developing experiences are when you get told about why it went wrong. And if you do it, and if it is delivered and received in a spirit of love and openness, without condemnation, then it is going to be a good thing. And this leads me to the entire point of this talk, really. Here we have a kitty, and in the mirror it sees a tiger. I would ask you, what do you see in the mirror before you walk out onto the shop floor? How do you see yourself? Because how you see yourself is how your patients see you, how the nurses see you, how your colleagues see you. I have a little exercise. One of my wanky titles is Foundation Programme Director. I had to change it. One of the ideas that we did, and have done for the last couple of years, was we asked the FY1s on the day that they start, after they've had the fire lecture and the talk from the medical director, and the infection control nurse is telling them again how to wash their hands, I asked them to write down where they're going to be in 5 years' time. It used to be write down their BMJ obituary, but that was a bit negative and a bit dark. But what I asked them to do is write down their CV in 5 years' time. Because it's very powerful to express on a piece of paper and have it written down for reference in black and white about where you're going to be in 5 years' time. And writing that down is a very, very, very important thing to do. So here we have possibly the most famous doctor in literature, with Mr. Sherlock Holmes. So concentrate. So what's it all about? Well, it's about you. You are the most powerful tool around, and you are amazing. You have amazing potential. It's about understanding the situations, the organisations, and the people with which you work. It's about doing the best every single day and not being demotivated by it. I started the EMEC in the first year with some punk rock. Last year we had film music. I had a poem for this year. Just need to find it. Good old preparation, eh? This is Now We Are Six by A.A. Milne. When I was one, I was just begun. When I was two, I was nearly new. When I was three, I was hardly me. When I was four, I was not much more. When I was five, I was just alive. Now I am six, I'm clever as clever, so I think I'll be six forever and ever. You are going through some of the difficult times. If you're an emergency medicine trainee, you're going through some of the most difficult times of the most rigorous training program. Once you get to this point, FCAM graduation, it should be a glorious day. And you're about as smart as you're ever going to be. But please, stay like that. Thank you very much.